beautiful day here in Sydney. Very happy to be here. Really happy to be able to present to you this morning. It's a very exciting time for telecommunications and property industry. And 5G, of course, is a very relevant topic from today. You see it quite a bit in the media. It's very exciting. We have great speeds, fantastic technology. However, with every sort of technology and every sort of advancement, there are compromises that need to be made. And we are getting quite a few requests from our clients to help them out, help them understand what 5G means when it involves their property, which is what we're going to talk about today. So in some cases, it may be opportunity for an owner, or it may be a possible risk. And that's something we just help owners navigate through in this world. So getting into this, what we want to talk about is, okay, I'm having.
Don't worry, Dennis, something is preventing the presentation from progressing.
Right. So what I want to do is, here we go. So first of all, what is 5G? The 1G were the old analog phones, the mobile phones that had suitcase-sized batteries that we lugged around and talked to our friends with. 2G was actually the first G of digital, which was just basically used, again, just for voice. 3G increased that to text. 4G, again, with each G, things got faster. 4G basically was we were allowed to do streaming, like the Zoom call. 5G is going to basically be 100 times faster than 4G, and it will allow more technology to be used, more higher data usage, more efficient usage of the networks for the telcos. It will allow e-health, connected vehicles, all sorts of traffic signal indicators, and mobile cloud gaming. So it's quite a good development for everyone. This just basically shows and illustrates the types of 5G installations. So you can have anything from a tower installation with a 5G upgrade on it to rooftops, which is another 5G. We sort of divide 5G into 3 different categories. Rooftops and towers, DASs, which is a distributed antenna system inside of buildings, and small cells. And they all play their part with increasing the speeds and that sort of thing. Now, with 5G, besides the speed being quicker, it also results in low latency. Low latency is basically the time that it takes for the signal to leave your handset and come back, or whatever device it is you're using. And why is that important? Well, when you're in self-driving vehicles, you want to make sure that that signal is coming back to you very, very quickly to make sure that your vehicle hasn't traveled too far before it tells you you're coming up on an intersection or you're getting ready to hit another car or whatever the situation is. It's also very good for things like you're going to have remote surgery going on with hospitals. So regional hospitals that may not have the specialists may get the benefit of surgeons and that sort of thing that are back in the large capital cities. And that, so it's quite a great improvement. Of course, in stadiums, there'll be all sorts of apps available to you to possibly look at a running back from different angles, different camera angles, and that sort of thing. You're going to have smart farms. So it's going to have an application for the rural and regional areas as well. And of course, we already have 4G going on with shopping centers, Wi-Fi systems, that sort of stuff. But again, more applications will be developed to help you basically get through your life a lot easier. And as we mentioned earlier, it does help the networks with their capacity issues, their efficiencies. They can basically, rather than broadcasting, they can shape their signals and the amount of power that they're using depending upon the amount of usage on that particular cell. This just shows you in a different aspect of what these what these small cells and 5G are doing. So again, these are the macro cells, the towers. There will also be one on top of buildings. These are the DASs. So you have a distributed antenna system or in-building coverage going on. And your 5G will be in those buildings, allowing the users in that particular building to have faster speeds for their data. The third application are the small cells themselves. So that's going to be on light poles, in this case, power poles, etc. And of course, the last thing, you'll have home small cells or home 5G. We actually are getting ready to have 5G connected to our office, from a wireless perspective. So it's going to be quite good. And of course, this is indicating, the self-driving cars, that sort of thing. So again, three types: macro cells, which are the rooftops and towers, DASs, and small cells in the way of 5G. So the deployment programs in Australia, at least, and I know that 5G deployment in the US is ahead of Australia at this time. I believe I read the other day there was 417,000 small cells in the US right now. The deployment in Australia is expected to be next year, as far as the small cells go. The rooftops and towers are underway right now. We're seeing quite a few requests from our clients to help them out on that. The DASs are being upgraded as well, 5G, but they're actually, with the DASs they're repurposing 4G spectrum, because what's happening there is that the other parts of that network internally are not capable of handling higher frequencies, the antennas and so forth. So basically what they're doing is they're going with the lower frequencies, but obviously increasing the speed of 5G. It will not be true 5G in the sort of sense of the word, but it will be very close to it. And so all that is going on right now. From a small cell perspective, just an interesting point is that TPG actually deployed small cells a couple of years ago. They were 4G to start out with. They still are 4G. The idea was that they were going to be able to easily switch those over to 5G when the time came. Unfortunately, they use Huawei equipment, and the federal government banned Huawei equipment. So they were not able to finish their deployment, and they were powered down. I'm not sure if they've been redeployed yet or not, as far as reusing those. But those are, like I say, those are the three areas that we sort of look at when we're talking about 5G. This is an illustration of a rooftop. We were out on site and decided to take a couple photos of some rooftops. So this is the red arrows illustrate a 5G antenna. So it's a very small one compared to the 4G one. This 4G antenna has been swapped out. You can tell by the number of cables going to it now, which the cables represent a great number of frequencies that the carriers are using to deploy signals. They also got power units here. This is a Telstra installation. So that's a Telstra remote radio unit. And of course, like I say, the 5G antenna. The thing that's important with these installations, a couple things. One is the EME that we'll talk about here in a minute, but the other thing is the structural situation. Because of the amount of antennas, a lot of cabling, power units, and number of antennas, this is called an H-frame. The carriers are having to increase their structural capacity, I guess you could say, on the roof to hold all these antennas. That puts additional load on your roof, which you should be aware of. The carriers will provide you with a structural certificate to make sure that, first of all, their structure is safe and they haven't overloaded your roof at the same time. So please be aware of that. Of course, the other thing is the visual impact of these installations. They're certainly not attractive, but it's something that the carriers may work with you if you bring it up and say, look, we really don't want that particular situation going on. We need to have the design changed. It's certainly something to raise with them if you have any issues with them. This is a TPG small cell that's not too far from the office. We took a photograph of it just to show you an indication of what one looks like. This is the power unit down here. It's on a power pole and light pole, and panel antennas on top. Now, sometimes these might be omni antennas, which look like candlesticks. But in this case, it's a panel antenna. And as I said, this was actually a 4G small cell, which was planned to be upgraded to 5G. These will be operating, if this was a 5G, it would be probably expected to be operating around 26 gigahertz. The frequency that they're putting on, the carriers are putting on macro cells, for instance, towers and rooftops, are more like the 3.5 gigahertz range, just as an aside. This is just a photograph of a DAS installation in the basement of a building, just for reference purposes. Some people don't know what DASs look like, what the base stations look like. This is the base station itself. This is some of the ancillary equipment here. These are things like splitters and combiners over here on the side. It's an internal mobile antenna system used in high-rise buildings or buildings that have difficulty getting external signals into them. For instance, like a car park, you might have something like this, or something that's being blocked by other buildings around it. Basically, like I say, you've got a base station, you have power units, you have transmission, and of course you have all the ancillary equipment mounted on a wall up here. So the cables go from here and up the risers and go to various floors. So the 5G upgrades, depending upon the situation, could be anything from a card to a rack of equipment, from what we've seen so far. This is getting back to our EME concerns. Please bear in mind, this is a plan view. So this doesn't indicate that all this roof surface is affected by the EME. It was getting a little bit too much involved. I thought if I went to an elevation as well, but the elevation may point out that you may or may not have any EME on the roof itself, or you may have it over here near the edges, near the facade. It all depends on what's going on with that particular site. But we have seen some instances where the EME is extended over plant on the roof. That provides a problem for the owner because maintenance people have to get up on the roof for the roof works, the facade, the plant, etc. And in a couple of the cases that we were advising a client, they basically went back to the carrier and asked for the design to be changed so that there wasn't any EME on the roof. Otherwise, you could end up in a situation where you have to ask the carrier for a shutdown. That could take some time. If you have a leaking roof, or in one case, it was a data center where their plant was on the roof and they needed like immediate access 7x24, that's not going to work terribly well with a carrier. So the idea is to make sure that you have a design that you're happy with, that works for you and also works for the carrier, so that they can meet their requirements for radio frequency coverage. So some of the things that we're seeing with DASs, it's gotten a bit acrimonious, I think, at times, or aggressive, let's say. The carriers are looking for ways of decreasing their costs. We understand that, but our owners are not happy because some of the tactics that they're using and so forth. They're stating that they're only upgrade to 4G or 5G if owners cut the rent. That's false. We found they will still upgrade, but it's just that, upgrading to 4G, 4G is 10-year-old technology. So we're sort of surprised why some carriers haven't upgraded to 4G already. It's being used at times, unfortunately, as an opportunity to try to cut their costs and cut the rent that they're paying. We're finding that the carriers are also introducing their own documents at times, their own leases or licenses, when there's one in place that may just be able to be extended. Some of our clients have had a very, very difficult time trying to get carriers to come out and repair malfunctioning DASs. There are some reasons for that are not involved with the carrier. It could be that a fit-out contractor or demolition contractor has damaged the DAS, in which case Yes, absolutely. The owner should be paying for those repairs. But what some of our clients have found is that the carriers aren't even coming out to basically investigate, that it's up to the owner to do so and try to raise the issue. And they're actually escalating it at times to the minister's office or ACMA or the TIO, because when the people in the building, the tenants in the building, are not getting a decent mobile signal, they are calling their service provider, and the service provider at times tells them to call the owners. So the owners don't have anything to do with a malfunctioning DAS. It's a carrier network. It's theirs. You cannot touch it. You cannot deal with it. So it's becoming quite a frustrating situation right now. It's fair enough if it's been damaged by a contractor, but by a contractor working for the owner. But I think a little more cooperation there is needed to make sure that the carriers' customers are getting the signal that they're paying for. There are times the carriers we're finding they're refusing or delaying connections to new systems that have been paid for by the owners, unless they pay significant sums of money for the installation of a carrier base station equipment and that sort of thing. Very little backup information is involved with that, and the owners are quite upset about it because they think it's outrageous, frankly, the size of these bills that their carriers are putting forward. An important point that is never really raised in these discussions is that the DASs are quite incremental and quite critical to a mobile carrier's network. Something like 80% of the data in CBDs is carried by DASs. In fact, a major, executive at an executive at a major mobile carrier said that if the owners were able to shut down the DASs, the mobile carriers, they're basically their networks would crash. So that's how important these things are. So they are very, very important. They do take a lot of the data load off the macro cell network, which are the rooftops. So it helps them to have these things in place. But what's happened is the narrative has been turned around to tell owners, they're doing it to help them out, to help them lease out their buildings, which is somewhat true, but it's not the complete picture. So from an operational perspective, something to keep in mind with these 5G installations is the increased EME, structural loading, visual issues. Like say, the additional antennas are coming on board. We're seeing antennas multiplying across some of these sites. The superstructure / steel superstructure on the roof is getting quite large. And for goodness sake, get what in Australia is known as the EMEG, an EME guide from the carrier to understand exactly what effect it's going to have on your roof. In the way of DASs, the carriers may request additional space or more power for these upgrades. Older DASs, we're seeing older DASs having a bit of trouble, particularly with leaky coax cabling, not able to handle the upper frequencies. Again, that gets back to the carrier issue. Are they going to upgrade it, or what are they going to do with it? In many cases, they just push the problem onto the owner, but we're hoping that the day will come when there'll be some cooperation between the two. And DASs, we're seeing DASs being upgraded to 5G with or without an announcement of the carrier or try to connecting it somehow to rent. So it's good. So if you have any questions on whether your DAS has been upgraded to 5G, let us know and we're happy to help out. There's some commercial opportunities with this as well as the risk. So there may be an opportunity for you to increase the rent on the roof in particular, where they're expanding beyond their leased areas. I think we still believe that there are times when you can negotiate with a carrier on these connection fees that they want to charge, and also using their own documents. We hope that the day will come when these what are considered by our clients to be outrageous amounts of money, they even refer to as ransom money, to connect up. And also the technology is changing. So maybe an opportunity in the future where the carriers won't have to do all the work of bringing in their base stations and that sort of thing. So we've been talking to some contractors and some providers that may have a technical solution to the situation. So the ways that we can help you is that we can mentor clients through the transaction. We do due diligence reports. We provide advice on how to work through these situations. We've got a database of over 4,000 leases right now. We can help you provide, evidence, market evidence of what's really going on with market rent. The carriers will, they basically report that rents are going down. Yes, they are trying to push rents down. There's no two ways about it. But overall, the market is increasing. The market rents are increasing slightly, but they're still increasing. They're not diving 20, 30, 40%, as sometimes is noted in some of this correspondence. So we can help you with all that. We can help you with the access to your buildings, to help vet what the contractors are wanting to do with their land access notices, with access requests to come in. We look at what they're asking to do. We talk to them about it. We work with them through it, and then provide a finished product and evidence and the package to our to the building manager that's involved with that particular building, and help them get through their day without the interruptions of all these installations and upgrades and maintenance and that sort of thing. So we're always available to discuss your issues. We've got our email addresses down there. It's Wayne. Wayne is our Wayne Sander is our Queensland director. Lisa Hall is our Victoria director, and I'm in Sydney. And we're all on LinkedIn. Please feel free to check us out and contact us. More than happy to help, guys. Thank you very much.